First step, approach Prius. Put the front on ramps, that'll help you. You don't need to get under the car, but it just makes it easier. I'm gonna go ahead and roll all the windows up because I'm not gonna have a battery here in a moment. Gonna sit outside, I don't want it raining in there and getting it wet. Let's quickly address the thing that freaks out a lot of people, and that is the hybrid battery. Technically, if you disconnect the 12-volt battery that sits in there, it kind of shuts off the circuits that allow the big battery to work. But we're going to disconnect that, and we're going to get in here and disconnect the big battery too, the hybrid. Push the button, Max. Get that out of there, put that up there. Anyway, you're going to take up this, your cargo cover, if your car even happens to have one. Some of them have it, some of them don't. Twist these, lift up on that, pull that again, put that up there. This piece comes out the same way. There's a handle in the back. Lift that thing. Now this is not heavy, as you can see that I'm doing it with one hand. Now, see, there's our battery right there. See that orange thing? That's what we're gonna grab and remove. This is very straightforward. Lift up on it. See how I popped up? Now I go out. Your big battery is now disconnected. Get in here. See that little bolt on the back there? That one right there? 10 millimeter. Remove that. The reason I tell you to disconnect this battery is because it has some mechanisms that power up, you know, like relays that kick on the big battery. I'm pretty sure that guy uses some kind of global positioning satellite to determine when I'm going to work on a car and make video. I have removed both sides of the battery. Move this totally away from it. 14 millimeter on these two. They come out and then the plastic piece pops off. Well, this comes off first, then the plastic piece. You'll see here in a second. It was the year of our Lord 1962 when they began to mow this yard. It would still be 7 years before we landed on the moon. And yet they still are here mowing. Little critter lived in here. You don't really want to dive into something like this because you never know what's in it. I mean, don't inhale. Hold your breath. 10 millimeter here, 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 here. Just look for them till they're all out. Took loose this little panel here. Took off the wipers. See that little hole right there? That is a drain hole. And there's one over there too. We got to clean this out as much as possible because if you ever find yourself having a leak into the car or critters getting into the car, they can find little spaces like that. Now, these wire looms come off and then this panel comes out. We're still going to move this inverter forward, but we're going to take this out first. Oh, looky here. All is not well in YouTube land. Got to get that out of there. That just goes to show when you let that stuff build up in here. That could even be mouse urine that did that or some kind of little woodland creature. Oh, that's out. More funk to clean out right there. But see that piece right there that my finger's on? It's the ABS actuator. Like I said, this piece still comes out just to make it as easy as we can make it, but it's not an easy removal. There are a couple of bolts in there that are going to take us a minute. Now on to the 10 millimeter bolts around this entire perimeter. When we're done with that, we'll take out that, which I believe is a 25 or a 27. It's about out of daylight, but I have just enough time to get this off here. There's a little stud in the back that kind of holds it in place. You're going to have to jam it. There we go. The interesting thing is I'm going to put this right back on because with it being almost dark, don't want any foreign objects to get in there overnight. You know, alligators and such. I gotta admit, I take little breaks, go inside the house and get a step or two ahead of the process. The system that I have here, you guys may have heard of this, it's e-manual online. As you can see, the actual Toyota logo is up in the corner. It does not get any more precise, any straightforward, or any better illustrated than this setup right here. I mean, where every bolt goes. Anyway, I'm trying to find exactly where those bolts are in the back because there are a lot of bolts back there, and I'd like to go ahead and cut to the chase. That shows me the exact things that I need to disconnect and the stuff that I don't. So I'm going to go down, separate the front brake tube number 5 from. See, there's actually an order that you want to do this. I guess that's number 5. They're all okay. Cool. Let's get out there and get this thing out of the car. Next day, lots of sun. Let's work on it. I had someone the other day tell me they didn't know that there was a key inside the fob. Right on the top there. Move it to the side. Key comes out. That's how you get in when you have your battery all disconnected. Let's go do it. Let's get back in here. Now, I took the 6 bolts out. They're bolts that hold these little plugs in. I took them out of the actual terminal. As you can see there, those bolts are out. Don't freak out about it. Power's off. Unless you did something wrong and then you could die. But you've lived a good life, right? This thing smells like electronics. Got a couple things on the outer edges we have to undo. This plug being one of them, big huge plug in the back. There's some 10mm bolts on that. Looks like nothing on the bottom. Nope. 2 bolts holding this in. Let's pull that out of the way. Before you start asking yourself, how does he get in the back? By the way, those of you thinking about getting into doing YouTube stuff, most of the time we'll be setting up a tripod. And you sure can't hire people to do that for you because you make $8 your first 12 years. Total. Looky there. Let's put that off to the side. Now you just kind of go around the perimeter and find the stuff that also needs to be taken off. Turns out I am human. The bolt that was here and the bolt that was here fell down in there. I was going to go fishing for them now, but this thing's going to be out in just a couple of minutes, so I'll wait till it's out, then go down in there. Don't y'all be thinking I'm not a baller, man. $60. Harbor Freight. It's one of the slant leg cheap ones. Paid for it in cash. You have 2 hoses to release now. One on top, one on the bottom there. You're going to lose a little bit, but honestly not a whole lot. That fluid is expensive, but you should always have it around anyway. This plug right here is a bit different. It does not have an actual place that you can unbolt on the bottom of this case, so it has to come off right here. And it has one of those little safety pin things. So you basically pry the green part out, and then the orange part will come up and out. There it is. That's the inverter. The good news is we're now looking right at this thing, and while it does take some working and finesse and stuff, this is a big part of the project already out of the way. We're just going to put it in the back of the car. All right, this little white thing right here, when you pull it out, it will also separate it from this. As it pulls out, it scoots over. That's out of the way. I want to give you an idea how big this bracket is everybody always talks about. See right here, it starts here, it goes all the way over, all the way under that, all the way to the left side of it, all the way to the right. That's why it's so difficult to pull out of here. It's just, see, there's a bracket connected to it here. There's this big thing with all the hoses here. There's just so much little stuff that it's kind of hard to get in there and do it. You know what? I'm a little surprised by this car because so many bolts on the average Japanese car are 10 or 13. Kind of unusual to see an 11 or 12, but this is the 4th or 5th one that I've run across that's a 12. Got a little something to show you people. Oh, we still got some work to go. I mean, it's going to be late fall by the time it's done. Kidding. I don't know, give me 3 months. Still kidding. By the end of the video. At this point, all we're doing is looking for the little brackets, the little bolt-on things all around this, because once those are all undone, and there are a couple, just look around all the edges, this will come out, but it's going to take you a minute of just taking loose everything you see. I got to be honest, this part of the video is highly edited. I had to cut out so much of it. There's like 3 minutes of just taking this thing out, and I had to cut it down to like 4 seconds because I said words that should never be uttered. At least it's out now. Let's take that one off the bracket and put the new one on the bracket. This is a weird moment. We're crouched down between the Prius and my Hummer H2. I'm kind of killing the entire planet and kind of saving it again. I don't know. Anyway, here's the piece that's going to replace that one. I got this one used because the guy crashed his car 3 months after putting this on. When you look at this up close, you'll realize that it's not very old at all. It's extremely obvious. But let's start swapping out brackets and get it back in the car. Well, would you look at that shiny new part? Got to hook up all the lines and the brackets and all that stuff, and then we'll be on to trying to bleed the brakes without a big tech tool, but we can do it. First thing I'm going to do is get all these lines started by hand. I will not be using a tool to tighten them. I'll get them like several threads in just by hand first, because you do not want to cross thread that. If you do cross thread any of these, you're doing the entire job again. I must admit, as I'm putting this thing back together, I consulted with that Emmanuel Online thing again, because there are several plugs back here and they're very similar, and there's also an order in which you want to reassemble things, because if you put one thing in place, you now can't reach the other thing. So it's come in handy for me so far. Considering this might be your last chance for a while, get rid of all the leaves and debris and stuff, everything you can see. You can, as long as this thing is closed up, you can use an air wand to blow that stuff out of there, but I'm just gonna grab it out of there by hand. There's not a lot. By the way, I guess that was gonna be a 25 or 27. It's actually a 30. That's the one I used right on the end there. Putting all the trim pieces back in now, but before I do, making sure like this one plug that goes to the wipers is just kind of up out of the way. And before you put anything on, once again, leaves out. Look back in there to see if there's a place you can clean. See, there's some funk in there. Now we had to drill out that one bolt, so I'm just gonna put some RTV on the top and bottom. It'll be on the bottom to keep it from rattling, and it'll be on the top to seal it. Okay, power's back on, but the reason this stuff is still lit up is because I've not reset it. I've not topped off the fluids. You still hear the beeping. Do not touch your brake pedal. Well, I got the brakes bled and I'm driving it around. No explosions, no fires. Have a fire extinguisher with me just in case, the big one, huge. I'm gonna take it on a little road test through the neighborhood here, get it up to the speed limit, make sure nothing weird happens, and then we'll call that a deal done. Thanks to EmmanuelOnline.com for helping me out with this one, hooking me up with a manual that came in so very handy. Like I said, there's a very specific order that you take things loose and hook them back up in this car, and it's very important that you follow that. And that manual has every bit of that listed. Really good pictures. It's actually from Toyota. I don't know how they managed to get that. Probably spent some big bucks for licensing. But I'll always have it now, because once you buy it, you buy it. But thank you guys. I'm going to put a link below for Emmanuel Online. And in the meantime, I'm going to drive around this car a little bit. And it's so weird because my truck gets 9 miles per gallon. This one gets almost 60. Good to be back in this little gas saver. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate every one of you. Also, please subscribe. Please do that. A whole bunch of people who watch videos don't subscribe, but I sure would appreciate it if you did. Oh, the miles per gallon. Breathe them in.